Why are humans the only animals that cry? It's a question that seems simple on the surface, but the answer is way more complex than you'd think. And what we discover might completely change how you understand your own emotions. You've probably seen a dog with tears in its eyes and thought it was crying. But here's the thing, that dog isn't actually crying. Those are just lubricating tears, keeping its eyes moist. Completely different from what happens when you cry. And that difference? It's one of the most uniquely human things about us. Let's start with what crying actually is. When you cry emotional tears, three different things are happening simultaneously. First, your tear glands are producing a specific chemical cocktail, proteins, hormones, and salt in concentrations that are completely different from regular tear fluid. Second, your body is releasing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And third, you're making involuntary facial expressions and sometimes sounds that accompany it all. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most animals on Earth have tear glands. Cats have them, horses have them. Even fish have specialized tissues that keep their eyes wet. But emotional crying? That's almost exclusively human. Almost. Some primates might have tear production associated with distress, but it's not the same as human crying. A chimpanzee in pain won't produce emotional tears. Neither will an elephant, despite what you might have heard. And yes, I know elephants seem incredibly intelligent and emotionally complex. They are, but they express their emotions through vocalizations, body language, and physical comfort, not tears. So, why did humans develop this specific ability? Scientists have a few theories, and the leading one is actually pretty fascinating. Crying might have evolved as a honest signal of distress or vulnerability. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. You're living in a small group of humans thousands of years ago. Someone starts crying, showing their vulnerability and their distress openly. What does that do? It triggers an empathetic response in the people around them. They want to help. They want to comfort that person. That kind of honesty, being unable to fake emotional tears, would have been incredibly valuable in a social species. You can lie with your words. You can lie with your face to some degree, but producing emotional tears? That's biologically harder to fake. It signals real distress. And in a tribe where cooperation and trust were literally matters of life and death, that signal would have been incredibly powerful. But here's what makes this even more interesting. We don't just cry when we're sad. Humans cry when we're happy. We cry when we're angry. We cry when we're overwhelmed, stressed, or even when we're laughing really hard. We cry at weddings, funerals, movies, and sometimes just from thinking about things. And that's unusual too. Most animals that might produce tears only do it in response to physical pain or extreme distress. But humans? We've expanded crying to encompass almost the full spectrum of intense emotions, and there might be a biological reason for that too. When you cry, your body releases endorphins and other chemicals that actually make you feel better. Crying is self-soothing. It's a built-in stress relief system that your body has. Some researchers think that's why we cry in response to such a wide range of emotions, because all of those intense feelings trigger the same physiological need to regulate our stress response. There's also a social component to this. Have you ever noticed that you're more likely to cry when other people are around? Or that seeing someone else cry makes you more likely to cry? That's not coincidental. Tears trigger something in our brains that makes us more empathetic and more likely to respond to someone's emotional needs. But let me bring up another aspect of this that's really important. Humans cry, but not all humans cry in the same way, and not all humans cry with the same frequency. Women statistically cry more often than men, and that difference appears to be both biological and cultural. Biologically, women have higher levels of the hormone prolactin, which is associated with tear production. But culturally, we've also developed different social expectations around crying. Men have historically been discouraged from crying in many Western cultures, while women have had more social permission to express emotions that way. But here's what's fascinating. In cultures where men aren't discouraged from crying, the differences in crying frequency between men and women become much smaller, which tells us that while biology plays a role, culture plays just as big of a role. Now, there's one more thing about human crying that's worth understanding. It's actually a form of communication, even when no words are spoken. When someone sees you crying, they immediately understand that you're experiencing something intense. They don't need you to explain it. They don't need you to describe your emotions in detail. The tears communicate the message directly, and that leads to something really profound. Humans might be the only animals that cry emotional tears, but we're definitely not the only animals that experience complex emotions. Elephants grieve, dogs form attachments, primates experience joy and distress, but they express those emotions differently than we do. So when we ask why humans are the only animals that cry, we're really asking something deeper. We're asking what makes human emotional expression unique. And the answer is that we've evolved a form of communication that's almost impossible to fake, that triggers empathy in others, and that provides us with immediate biological relief from stress. We cry because we're social creatures who needed a way to honestly signal vulnerability. We cry because it works, both for us and for the people around us. And maybe most importantly, we cry because we're capable of experiencing such intense emotions that sometimes our bodies need a physical release for them. The next time you cry, remember that you're participating in something incredibly rare in the animal kingdom. You're engaging in a uniquely human form of communication that has helped us survive and thrive as a deeply social species. And that's what makes you human.